Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
Yo, it's your boy, the odd guy himself, Malik King Scott.
Hi, I'm Charlie Edwards.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 162 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as always by the infamous, the elusive Mr. Ayaz Sumra. Ayaz, how you doing?
I'm good, Joey. Yourself?
Very good, my friend, very good. Let's start with a review part of the show. I'm going to start in a place called the Sophia Hotel in Thailand. Now, this bill was very much a last-minute bill from my understanding. The cheeky little man, the very, very cheeky little rascal, Chayafon Moonsri, the man with a record of 51-0, he took on a guy at late notice called Mektison Marganti, who had a record of 2-9 with one draw. A horrendous mismatch on paper. It ended up being a unanimous decision over 6 rounds in favour of Chayafon Moonsri. He's now 52-0. Floyd Mayweather, boy, oh boy, you need to get back in that gym to catch the record of Chayafon Moonsri. That's it from Thailand. Moving out now to the Chesapeake Energy Arena in Oklahoma, USA. Let's start here with the undercard. We had Cletus Seldin, 21-1. He got in there against Nelson Lara, who had a record of 17-10 with 4 draws. One thing about Seldin is he can really bang, and he showed it here. A first round knockout for Cletus Seldin. What a way to end the year there for him. Also, we had Egis Kavalauskas. His record 20-0. He took on Roberto Ariaza. Ariaza was 17-0, undefeated. It was a KO in the third round for Kavalauskas. He also defended successfully his NABF welterweight title, and I also think it was the WBO Intercontinental title as well. I think he had both belts. He defended, like I say, successfully there with a third round knockout. Another knockout for him. And moving up the card, we had Maurice Hooker, 24-0 with 3 draws. This one was actually shown on Box Nation. He took on Alex Salcedo, 28-0. Now, Salcedo was a big favourite going in, despite being the challenger here. Like I say, it was for the WBO World Super Lightweight title. Maurice Hooker remained undefeated with a 7th round TKO. What a fight this one was. I mean, the first round straight away was completely action-packed. I'd even give the first round to Salcedo. Now, in the second round, Hooker seemed to just get countered with this straight right hand while he was coming in, and the shot wasn't really a big one, and Hooker didn't appear shaken at all, but he did get dropped, and like I say, when he got back up, he didn't really seem that shaken. He actually came alive in the late part of the round, though. I mean, he was going after Salcedo. He responded like a champion, but it was certainly a 10-8 round for Salcedo. Good action, though, after just 2 rounds. So I had it 20-17 with that knockdown after 2. Going into the third round, I mean, the third round was a great round for Hooker, actually. He started to finally work the jab consistently. Salcedo was unable to really get past the jab and ended up not landing much or even throwing much even. It was a clear round for Hooker. So a great response from him once again. In the fourth round, it was a very competitive round. Maurice Hooker started off great, but Salcedo came back into it. I would probably edge that round to Hooker, or even perhaps score it even. The fifth round was actually arguably a 10-8 round until the last 5 seconds. I mean, Hooker was laying on the ropes. His defense was leaky. He looked all over the place, and he was allowing Salcedo to just tee off on him. And Salcedo was switching it up from head to body. Hooker seemed like he thought he was comfortable, but he really didn't look comfortable, and the judges would have seen that. I think the tactics were quite silly and quite stupid. And like I say, in the last 5 seconds from nowhere, Hooker just bounced off the ropes, and he landed a massive combination from head to body that visibly hurt Salcedo, and Hooker went back to his corner like everything was under control, even though he certainly lost the round. Obviously not a 10-8, but it was so much of a one-sided round until those last 5 or 6 seconds. Now, in the 6th round, Hooker seemed like he had listened to his corner. They said to him, stay off the ropes, start getting behind the jab. He did that, and he was moving, he was hitting and moving, he was boxing and moving, and Salcedo's left eye actually was cut in that 6th round. Now, in the 7th and final round here, Hooker decided he was going to just go straight straight on the attack, and as soon as he came out from his, from his corner at the start of the round, he went straight on the attack, and Salcedo ended up being hit by a big right hand from Hooker. Now, Salcedo's knees dipped badly, but he didn't actually fall on the ground. He sprung back up and bounced into the ropes. He would have gone down, so the referee did give him a count. He looked completely done to me, and he carried on. He tried to carry on, and Hooker just swarmed him. And it was reminiscent to the way Deontay Wilder tries to swarm a fighter and tries to finish the fight. He went quite reckless, and he did force a stoppage in the end, and Salcedo was simply being hit too often, so I could not argue with that stoppage at all. He couldn't defend himself at all, and yeah, for me it was a fair stoppage. But I think everyone should kind of get off Hooker's back a little bit, because everyone kind of said he was overrated when he took on Flanagan. Flanagan didn't have a great night, so everyone kind of took away the victory from Hooker. Obviously, he got the belt that night against Flanagan. He took his O, and then he got in against another undefeated fighter now, so that's 2 on the trot. And this time against Salcedo, he managed to stop him. Not only take his O, but stop him, and he was the underdog, if I'm not mistaken, in both fights. So credit to Hooker. Everyone get off his back. He's a good fighter. Moving out now to Germany. Let's talk about this one here. Topping the bill at the EWS Arena in Baden-Württemberg. Firat Arslan. 47 years of age now, could even be 48. I keep saying that. He's fought so many times recently. I'm sure he's had a birthday or two in that space of time. His record 44-8 with 2 draws. He fought for the GBU World Cruiserweight title. Oh God, and the WBO Intercontinental Cruiserweight strap. Both belts belong to him actually, so he was defending those. He took on Sefer Seferi, a man that we've seen share a ring with Tyson Fury on the comeback. Sefer Seferi actually fought Arslan to a majority draw over 12 rounds. So, a lot of people said that Seferi was absolutely awful. I think he was a lot better than people gave him credit for. And like I say, Arslan, who's certainly seen better days, the judges seemed to not really do him a favour on the cards there. I think it was quite a close fought fight. So, a deserved draw there. But I didn't see any of it, I must say. But from what I've heard, it was quite competitive. And Arslan's a very good fighter at 47 years of age. I'm not saying he's a world beater, but at this point in his career, he's still pretty decent. And like I say, Sefer Seferi had a very close fight with him there, so not too much to really pluck from that whole situation. Moving out now to another part of Germany, we're going to talk about the undercard first here. This one took place at the Anhalt Arena in Sachsen-Anhalt. We had heavyweight prospect Tom Schwartz. He moved to 23-0. A TKO in the 6th round against Christian Lewandowski, whose record is now 12-3. And the main of it, in fact, I'm going to mention a little fight here, actually, a women's fight. There was a girl on the bill called Lucy Sedlakova, who had a record of 11-0, undefeated with 1 draw. She fought for the vacant EBU European female featherweight title against Nina Minka, a former opponent of Katie Taylor. I remember Katie Taylor bashing her up badly. Well, Minka actually pulled off the upset here. She took Lucy Sedlakova's O, and she's now the new EBU European female featherweight champion. So all the very best to Nina Minka there. A 10th round unanimous decision. But the main event over here, Robin Krasniqi, 48-5. He successfully defended his EBU European super middleweight title against Ronnie Ladeta, who had a record of 16-0, so his O has been taken. Ladeta was down in the 1st round, and he had a point deducted in the 4th round for hitting Krasniqi on the back of his head. So a 12-round unanimous decision there for Krasniqi. Moving out now to Spain, one fight to mention over here. Commiserations for Frankie Gavin fans. He stepped in the ring against Kerman Leharaga. Leharaga moved to 27-0. A KO in the 4th round. A brutal body shot was delivered to Frankie Gavin's midsection, and Frankie Gavin stayed down way after the count of 10 was reached. His record now 26-4. A friend of the show. Obviously, Gavin came in 4.25 pounds over the weight limit, which was, there's no real way of explaining it, to be honest. There's, as much as you like Frankie Gavin, there's not much you can say. That's quite inexcusable. Many people think he should actually be fighting at 140, and to miss the weight at 147 by that much, that was absolutely criminal. He did give it a good go, I will say. The little clips that I've seen of it wasn't televised. I was hoping it'd be on Box Nation. A lot of people were quite annoyed that it wasn't, but yeah, the little clip that I did see, he showed a lot of heart. He fought back. He hit Leharaga with a beautiful, beautiful uppercut just before Leharaga delivered the final crunching body shot. But yeah, I'm not quite sure what Frankie Gavin does from here. It's another loss. A man that had such a promising career that seems to have just gone down the drain so quickly. I think the only fight that Frankie Gavin should be involved in next is he should fight Bradley Skeet. And I said that to Bradley Skeet earlier this week on Twitter, and he said to me, "But what's the point of fighting him? What's the point? What does he offer?" Well, my answer is he's got a questionable win over Bradley Skeet. I'd like to see Bradley Skeet try and avenge that very, very close fight, the loss that he had. It was very close. It could have gone either way. I actually felt that Bradley Skeet nicked it on the night, but I think the rematch could be a win for Bradley Skeet. So in effect, he'd wipe a loss off of his record, if you like. He'd avenge it, and I'd like to see that fight happen because Bradley Skeet, I think his last 1 or 2 fights, he's took on guys that we've never heard of. We'd much prefer to see him fight Frankie Gavin than a guy called Oscar whatever from Mexico. We'd rather see Frankie Gavin in there, and there's a bit of needle there as well. So I'd like to see that fight next for Frankie Gavin. Other than that, I'm not really interested in what he does. It's a shame for him, like I say. We all picked Leharaga to win that one by knockout, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just double check. Yes, we all went with Leharaga by knockout, so we all gained a point there on the prediction league. Moving out now to the Brentwood Leisure Centre in United Kingdom, Essex. One fight really to mention over here. We saw Harley Ben, the estranged son of Nigel Ben, almost forgot his name for a sec. He took on a guy called Teodor Boyadiev, who had a record of 1-14 with 2 draws. Boyadiev was down in the first round from a right hand, but he got back up, and Harley Ben ended up winning on points over 4 rounds. So another win for him, like I say, 5-0. And also on this bill, we should mention a very honourable mention to Mikey Saki, the guy whose brother was sat there saying, "Come on, Mikey, come on, Mikey." I'm not quite sure if his brother was doing the same for this show, but he moved to 7 wins, and he's also got those 2 losses. A points win over 4 rounds here against Ilyan Markov, who's now 3-5 with 2 draws. All the best to Saki. Moving out now to the Victoria Warehouse in Trafford Road, Manchester, Lancashire, United Kingdom. 1 or 2 fights, just one fight to mention actually over here. We saw Liam Taylor 19-1. That one loss came to Tyrone Nurse, by the way. He took on Tyrone Nurse here in a rematch. Tyrone Nurse 35-4 with 2 draws. It ended up being a split decision over 10 rounds, and this time Taylor won. So he managed to avenge his sole loss to Tyrone Nurse. The first fight was a very close fight. The second one here was a very close fight, and those two seem to be very well matched. So a good win there for Liam Taylor. He can probably now move on to better things. And Tyrone Nurse, a guy that he's a real good fighter at a certain level, but I feel like his career's just kind of been stalled, really. I think he's kind of stayed around domestically for too long. Obviously, not with a major promoter behind him. I think he's had some real difficult times, Tyrone Nurse. All the very best to him, though. And moving now to York Hall, Mo Garib, a fighter that I think made his debut, or certainly had a fight on a Joe Joyce undercard. I think Mo Garib did something with Haymaker Ringstar maybe for one fight, and I remember him being interviewed before the fight at the David Hay gym, the Haymaker gym, and I remember Garib, they were asking him questions, and he was kind of like, he didn't really know anything about anything else but boxing. All he cared about was winning, and his whole life was completely dedicated to boxing. I think he'd done a run on the way to the gym. Like, that's how dedicated this guy was. He was serious about his business. He was there with his mother. She came there as well. It's very much a family thing for Mo Garib. And a fighter that, just hearing him speak, I thought, you know what? I can really get behind you. I think that... he had the right mindset that a champion should have, but it all went wrong for him here. He was 3-0. He was down in the first round, and he was down again in the third round against Dean Evans, who's 7-26 with 2 draws going in. Dean Evans, a journeyman there. He's dropped Garib once in the first, like I say, and once in the third, and he's managed to beat him on points over 4 rounds. So a very tricky 4-rounder there for Mo Garib. Commiserations to him. His record 3-1 doesn't look so good now. Moving out now stateside to the big bill that took place on Sky Sports and DAZN on Saturday night at the Kansas Star Arena in Kansas, USA, like I say. On this bill, we saw Anthony Sims Jr. He moved to 17-0, a TKO in the second round against Colby Porter, who's now 13-13. We also saw Clarissa Shields move to 7-0, a win over 10 rounds unanimously against Scotland's very own Hannah Rankin, who's now 5-3. This one was for the IBF WBA world titles, which both belong to Clarissa, and of course the WBC vacant title, which Clarissa told me last week that she would be happy to put in her trophy cabinet alongside the others. And also, if you haven't listened to it on last week's show, check out my brilliant singing with Clarissa Shields. I've had fantastic feedback on that, especially from Barry Jones and Steve Bunce. If anyone was watching the Maurice Hooker bill on Friday night, they gave me a serious plug on there during the live feed, so brilliant stuff there. But yeah, Clarissa moved, like I say, to 7-0. I think that's her 5th world title now in 7 fights, which is just absolutely incredible. But the fight itself, though, I mean, in the first round, Dave Coldwell picked up on the commentary that Rankin couldn't find her range, and that was absolutely true, even though it was only a 2-minute round. She looked a little bit afraid to overcommit, and maybe rightly so. I know that Clarissa, we knew going in, didn't really have much respect for Hannah Rankin, and she showed absolutely no respect from the first bell. A clear round for Clarissa in the first round. I mean, I gave her every round, so I'm just going to save time and not say who I gave the round to, because I gave them all to Shields. In the second round, Clarissa was loading up with every shot, really. She was keeping her hands down. Shields actually nailed Rankin with a beautiful overhand right in the last couple seconds of that second round. And Rankin, to her credit, seemed to take the shot quite well. In the third round, more of the same, really, from Shields, still dominating. She was walking forward and not really worrying about anything Rankin was throwing back at her. It was a brave effort from Rankin. Even after 3 rounds, I thought, boy, oh boy, can she stay in there? In the fourth round, Shields landed multiple heavy-looking shots in that fourth round, and Rankin possibly was unraveling a little bit. She seemed like, you know, she was running out of ideas. Nothing was working for her at all. In the fifth round, more of a beating from Shields. The jab that Shields possesses is excellent, especially amongst the female boxers, and that's no knock there. I'm just saying it's very hard for men and women to establish a good jab, and Clarissa is one of the very special fighters that has got a fantastic jab. But yeah, I mean, she was doubling up, tripling up, even quadrupling up the jab, and it's fast and snappy, and, you know, as nice as she comes across whenever she does the podcast with me, she's a real beast deep down. And in the seventh round, Shields seemed to hurt Rankin a few times, and the spite in Shields was crazy. I mean, she was a woman on a mission. She was vicious. I think Hannah Rankin was so lucky that this was a 2-minute round contest and not 3-minute rounds. I think Hannah probably wished it was a 1-minute round contest. Every round would be over in, you know, the whole fight would be over in 10 minutes. But her corner at the end of the seventh actually said that she should let her hands go more, which for me was quite scary advice. And in the 8th round, it was a decent round actually from Rankin. She certainly lost it still, but Clarissa looked to be a little bit frustrated. I think she wanted the knockout so badly, and I think Hannah was tougher than perhaps we all thought she was going in, especially Clarissa. I think Clarissa was so angry that she hadn't put her away already. Now, in the 9th round, in the last few seconds, Rankin actually got wobbled once or twice, and it was just, you know, a little bit kind of too little too late, because in the 10th round, Clarissa came out dominating once again, and yeah, I couldn't see anything but 10 rounds to 0. Very, very good fight, though. I think there was a lot of action. A lot of people kind of, you know, beating on this contest, saying that, you know, it wasn't a good fight for women's boxing. I don't think there was anything wrong with it. I thought it was quite an exciting fight. I'm not going to mention any names here, but a few other female boxers went to Twitter to start hating on it and stuff like that. Oh, bore off, please. Stay in your lane is what I say. Moving up the bill once again, we saw Jarrell Big Baby Miller 22-0 with 1 draw. He took on the previously undefeated 18-0 Bogdan Dinu, who had a record of 18-0. Like I say, it was a 4th round KO for Big Baby Miller. This one was for the interim WBA NABA heavyweight title and the vacant WBO NABO heavyweight title. Dinu was down twice in the fight. Dinu started off boxing and moving really in the first couple rounds, and he was using his feet well. I mean, he was throwing a few shots and getting out the way. It was the right tactics against Miller, really. But in the third round, Dinou's feet had slowed down a lot, and Miller was just piling on the pressure and sinking those big body shots into Dinou's body. And like I say, in the fourth round, Miller dropped Dinou with a nice combination, finished off with a left hook upstairs. It was actually a right to the body, doubled up, then a right uppercut, then a left hook on the temple, which finished it. And down went Dinou. I mean, he got back up bravely, he carried on, but he got dropped about 10 seconds later, and that time he didn't beat the count. Sky Bet had a nice bet boost, actually. Before the fight, they had a lovely looking bet boost. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the bet boost. It's like, basically, it's like enhanced odds. And it said for Miller to get the knockout in rounds 1 to 3, it was 8-1 or something. And I fancied that. I put a little bit of money on that. And then, of course, as typical as it can be, he ends up stopping him in the fourth round and not the first, second or third. But yeah, that was what it was. Moving up the card once again, we saw Brandon Rios move to 35 wins inside 40 fights. He's also got 4 losses and a draw. It ended up being a TKO in the 9th round against Ramon Alvarez, the brother of Saul Alvarez. Canelo, of course, his record now 27-7 with 3 draws. Brandon Rios, I mean, he stepped up in weight for this one. It wasn't his weight class. Alvarez fought with the wrong tactics. He sat on the ropes and took Rios' shots. That, and also the fact that Alvarez is extremely limited. I mean, he was tough to his credit. He's a tough Mexican, but that was about it. It was all Rios, even though he didn't look in great shape and he looked a bit fleshy. He didn't really look sharp either. It was poor quality, really, the whole fight. I mean, he's signed a deal now with Eddie Hearn, so it'd be interesting to see what happens with that. And the main event, I think it was the main event, I'm not quite sure. No, sorry, it wasn't the main event because it was a few fights down the bill, but for some reason it comes across as the main event on the page that I'm looking at it on. Gabriel Rosado, 24-11 going in, took on Luis Arias, 18-1, friend of the show. This fight was not televised in the UK, so I haven't seen it, and I've been advised to not go and see it because apparently it was absolutely awful. It was for the interim WBO Latino middleweight title. How about that for a strap there? But yeah, Luis Arias was coming off a year layoff. He hadn't fought since the loss to Daniel Jacobs last year, and it ended up being a split draw over 12 rounds. Many people actually saying that Gabriel Rosado should have got the victory and was quite unlucky to get a draw. Firstly, no one likes a draw. Secondly, I had real ambitions of Luis Arias doing good things in the sport and big things in the sport. And I feel a little bit gutted for him, really, because I know that he really takes boxing seriously and he really believes in himself and all that, but a draw against Gabriel Rosado, I mean, that's not a good look. That doesn't tell me that you're going to be a future world champion, so I'm a little bit gutted for him. That's 2 bad performances in a row now. I'm not sure that he certainly can't afford a third one in a row, but I'm not sure he's even going to get another big chance like that on TV. I think that he's running out of opportunities there. It's been a shame, really. I mean, to think that he was once an undefeated high-flying prospect with Floyd Mayweather, and then he obviously went to Rock Nation and that didn't work out for him. Just like the Floyd thing, it didn't work out for him. Floyd actually was, the day before he was going to drop him from his promotional stable, I think one of the other fighters at Floyd Mayweather Promotions tipped him off and said, listen, Arias, tomorrow you're going to get dropped by Floyd. And he was so confused. He said, why? I mean, Floyd hasn't even spoken to me. And I think Luis Arias turned up at the gym and tried to confront Floyd, and all the bodyguards got in his way and Floyd didn't say a word back to him. It was very odd. I mean, he kind of got dumped by Mayweather, and then he went to Rock Nation, and his whole career kind of turned into a bit of a stalemate, and then he got dropped by them, if I'm not mistaken. It certainly didn't work out well. And then he finds himself on 2 Eddie Hearn shows, and they've both been bad performances. So not the greatest thing in the world there for Luis Arias, but as a friend of the show, I wish him all the very best. And just before we wrap up the review part of the show, the last bill to mention happened on Monday of this week, actually, earlier on this week at the Hilton Hotel in Mayfair, London, United Kingdom. Topping the bill, we saw Boy Jones Jr., 18-1 with 1 draw. Now, he stepped in against Craig Evans. This one was for the WBO European lightweight title. It was vacant, so the belt was on the line for both guys. Craig Evans, his record 18-2 with 2 draws going in. Now it ended up being a unanimous decision over 10 rounds, so Craig Evans, the new WBO champion. Also on the bill we saw Willie Hutchinson. He got a win over Ferenc Albert. He moved to 6-0, and I think that was about it really to mention from that one there. It was a Nordhoff Robbins charity event that Frank Warren puts on once a year, so credit to him for doing great things there for a fantastic charity. But that really wraps up the review part of the show. Just before we wrap up part 1, the last thing to do is to welcome guest number 1. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former IBF Flyweight World Title challenger. It is, of course, Mr. Charlie Edwards. Charlie, welcome back on the show.
Thank you for having me on, Joe, like always, mate.
It's always my pleasure, Charles. So we last spoke back in April. It was just before your fight against Anthony Nelson. Now, obviously, you went on to win that fight in devastating fashion, a brutal finish in the 3rd round. Arguably the performance of your career, would you agree?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. It was probably the performance of my career. It wasn't my toughest opponent to date. But, yeah, it wasn't my first fight because of obviously I fought for the world title, and I feel that although I got beat in it, I still performed out of my skin for that fight. It wasn't the way I wanted it to go, but I still showed a lot. But yeah, it was, and it was a brilliant knockout. It was a knockout real performance.
And to think, like I say, that Anthony Nelson had an extremely competitive and exciting fight against Jamie Conlan. Now, I'm not comparing you and Conlan as fighters, but in terms of your performance, both of your performances against Nelson, I mean, all I can say is wow.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, I think the performances shown for themselves, to be honest. But Jamie's a great lad and a very good fighter in himself. So you can't really compare 2 fighters. Styles make fights, and that's what it comes down to.
Now, of course, you haven't fought since that Nelson win, and I know that you were hoping to fight sooner than December 22nd. You were hoping to fight, I believe, in October, November, if I'm allowed to say that. What actually delayed that from happening, Char, if you can say?
It's just big fights take time to make, and I'm still learning about this. Like, my Casemiro fight come around very quickly, and it just happened straight away. Where this fight is a fight we've been having to look at options of what world champion that we was going to go and pursue. We tried a few things, didn't come off the plan. They got offers elsewhere, and they wanted to go that way. But also we were sitting around trying to bait out Yafai again. That never happened. So really, it was just like kind of big fights take time, and to get people to fight you is hard. Especially when I believe I am a world-class fighter, and I believe I'm a big risk for anyone. So unless the world champion wants to come over for a certain amount of money that Eddie's willing to pay, that's the only way to do it.
And now it's officially on. Cristofer Rosales will come back to the UK for what I believe is the 4th time, and it's going to be taking place on the White versus Chisora 2 undercard. Now, what do we know about Rosales, Char? Obviously, like I say, we've seen him a few times now.
He's a very, very strong, tough, gritty operator who comes to fight. He apparently punches very hard. He's got a good knockout ratio. He is very one-paced, but he is fit, and he'll be there the whole way through the fight. But there is a lot of flaws to him, and there's a lot of opportunities to be able to catch him clean and to outbox him.
And obviously we saw him last time out against Paddy Barnes. He demolished Paddy Barnes, really. And we've also seen him lose both of his other 2 fights I mentioned on British soil, to Selby and to Yafai. Now, everyone talks about Rosales' size, but when I've actually looked at it, he's only half an inch taller than you, Charlie. People forget that you're very big for flyweight also.
Yeah, I'm a very big flyweight, a massive flyweight at that. So I'm not only big as in tall, I do hold the weight well. You can see that my stature and my strength is there. So it's not a big thing about him being big. If anything, I prefer to fight taller fighters. And like I say, I'm not in this game just to win a world title at one weight. That's not my goal. I want to go through weights and I want to win world titles. And that's why I'm dropping back down to flyweight, because I believe I can beat Rosales. I believe I can beat most of the world champions in the flyweight division now. So why not go down? It'd be a sacrifice and a lot of hard work, but I'm actually making my way easier than ever because I'm doing it properly. When I'd done it 2.5 years ago against Casemiro, I didn't really know the pro game and didn't know how to make the weight the best way. I was doing it a very amateurish way. So I've learned a lot of experience over the last 2.5 years, and I've been able to put that now and realise I can make flyweight. And I think once I get past Rosales, not looking too far ahead, but the division's open for me.
And obviously, like you mentioned there, that fight that took place quite a while ago. Now, that was the last time that you'd actually made the flyweight limit, because it seemed as though your future was going to be at Superfly. You've kind of answered my question a little bit in what you just said, but how difficult or easy has it been to make the weight? Is it harder or easier than you anticipated it'd be to get down to flyweight again?
Well, I obviously I'm not walking around on flyweight limits now. I'm not. I haven't hit the 8-stone limit now, but where I am in camp right now, I could have made it for my last fight against Anthony Nelson, and I did have a laugh with my coaches. So I just weighing up flyweight just to have a laugh and just to prove I can do it to everyone, and that will be like a big uproar that I've made flyweight for a super flyweight contest. And he was like, "No, don't be stupid. Eat up. Make sure you make the weight easy, comfortably." And we'll just focus on this and then look to pursue that. But we know we can make it now. And I was like, all right, sweet. So then I knew I could make the weight. It would have meant maybe not eating the night before my weigh-in. But let's be honest, most fighters don't do that. So I knew I could make it comfortably. And when I rehydrated up, I knew I could be as strong as I was that night. And the performance I put on there and the strength I can carry down to flyweight, I've matured a hell of a lot. And I've grown into a man. And I've realised how to be an ultra professional now and to do the weight from weeks in advance, dedicate my life to it, and I'm stronger. I'm more of I'm like a man. I've probably got more muscular as well, which makes me be able to drop a little bit more water from my body.
And like I say, I hate to bang on about old times and all that, but people forget that if you'd have won that fight on the Brook Golovkin undercard, you would have become the quickest Englishman ever to win a world title. Now, a lot of people seem to overlook that fact. What you tried to do there was absolutely, you can't blame you for trying to do that. It was absolutely unbelievable. No shame in losing that fight. Obviously, Casemiro and Rosales, they don't fight like each other at all. But did you learn anything in that in the Casemiro fight that you can bring into this fight so that the outcome is very much different?
Yeah, I learned a hell of a lot. Like I was very young and naive to the sport of world boxing, and I believe that I've walked the road. I know what it's like to do fight week. I know what it's like to do the public workout. I know what it's like to come close head to head with a world champion and warming up for a world title fight and walking out in front of a 20,000 O2 arena. When really my back was up against the wall against a 2-weight world champion who was a massive explosive puncher. So I've lived it. I know what it's like to get hurt. I know what it's like to be down on the canvas. I've gained all that experience and know what I did wrong and how I went into the fight wrong and how I wasn't preparing right for fight. So carrying that through now, I believe I'm 100% ready. I've gone away. I've been sparring with Ryan Burnett, a unified bantamweight world champion he was, don't forget. And when we sparring, the spars are nip and tuck, very, very good spars, very competitive spars. I went over to the Ukraine, I sparred Dalekayan, I've been sparring Filipinos over there, a super bantamweight Ukrainian also. So it's like, I've been around now, I've done my proper work, I've put in the groundwork and I've sparred world champion after world champion, and I know now what it is like to mix at that level, and now I am ready, and I will show that on December the 22nd.
And your rival Kal Yafai defends his world title this weekend. He takes on Israel Gonzalez. What do you make of that fight, Char?
Oh, good luck to him. Hopefully he keeps on winning. I'm sure he will. It's a hand-picked opponent again. Someone who was ranked below me, actually, at super flyweight when he was giving it all the bigging about, because I ain't in no rankings, I won't fight you. But then he went and picked someone who was below me. So kind of contradicts himself. But good luck to him. I hope he goes on and wins. Hope he puts a good performance in. It's all building the fight, and all my focus on now is December the 22nd. That fight is going to happen in the future, mark my words. And when it does happen, it's going to be massive, and I look forward to that. But right now, I'm just focusing on Cristofer Rosales and yeah, I'm going to go and put in a big performance and actually introduce myself to world boxing. I'm a serious competitor. People look at me and they don't realise how much I've come on because they haven't seen me a lot in the last 2.5 years because I had a lot of fights where I wasn't being pushed. I wasn't hungry for them fights because at the end of the day, I wasn't enjoying boxing when I wasn't getting enough attention that I deserved. I put in the hard work and I've been in the gym for the last 2 years. It's not like I'm a complete athlete. I don't go out of the gym and I'm out of the gym for 2 months and then get a fight and then 8 weeks before get back into camp. That's not me. I live the life of an athlete. I learn every single day. And I'm really looking forward to be chucked back in that world scene. And you'll see me shine. Look what I've done at domestic scene. Absolutely wiped him out. Someone who had formerly fought for a world title after him had real trouble with him. So I'm looking forward to getting in there against someone everyone's rate. As you can see, he knocked Paddy Barnes out with a body shot and in the 4th round. So everyone goes on like Paddy Barnes. I really still believe he's overrated and he's very old now and he's kind of like scrubbing a career on his old Olympian name. I know he's got quite a few fans in Ireland. Just actually seen an interview of him saying that he's the main man at flyweight. I don't know who's deludedly told him that, but he basically has said that he don't want to fight no British fighter, as in me, Selby, or my brother. He just wants to fight at the world scene. Well, when I win this world title, he'll have to be fighting me, and that's, I know I'm going on. That's another story, but. Yeah.
Ooh. That's the first time I've heard that from you. Usually it's Sonny. It seems like you two are going to be pushing and shoving to try and fight Barnes.
The thing is, my brother's a class operator, and Paddy just like tried slating and saying that he's the main flyweight, and it's like we need him for TV. I'm not being funny. I'm not being disrespectful or rude, but I'm fighting on a Sky Sports box office, and I think it's cheap support. And he's bringing my name into it. I just don't really understand it. He wouldn't even get close to my brother, and that's the fact of it.
Yeah. But no, back on to just briefly about Kal. Like I say, he said something this week about he wants unifications in 2019. So like I say, should you win and should he win on this weekend?
We have to make a catchweight, don't we? When I win this WBC world belt, no one cares about flyweight or super flyweight, especially the British public. They don't understand the difference between 3 pounds weight difference. So people are going to be calling for it. And then if Kal yet again will back down. But we'll cross that bridge when it comes.
Yeah, we certainly will. But yeah, like I say, Sonny's win the other week over Ryan Farag. Now, I know that we were actually sat pretty much together ringside. What a performance from Sonny. I mean, he did everything but knock Farag out. He simply couldn't have dominated more than he did. He really announced himself right there. A proud brother moment for you.
Very, very proud brother moment. It was an absolute masterclass performance and a schooling. And that performance does him no justice because a lot of people won't want to fight him, even more so now. So I would really think like my brother is fighting in 2 weeks before me, fighting for a title against. I don't know. Actually, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it. Yeah.
No, you're not allowed to say
released.
it. You're not allowed to say
no.
it. It's only a week before you, I think, though, Char. Ain't it the 15th?
Yes, sorry, a week before me. Yeah.
There we go.
I think it might have been announced on Twitter, but I don't know if it has. So I won't say it.
No, that's all right.
But he's got a very good fight against someone who caused a very tough night's work, and he'll go out and do the same and put another masterclass on.
Absolutely. So, like I say there, you know, your fight's a week after his. Will you be there at the, I think it's the Brentwood Leisure Centre, will you be there to support him a week earlier?
I'm absolutely gutted, but I won't be there to support him. And sometimes in this sport of boxing, it's a very mad world, but me living in Sheffield now and a week before my fight, the biggest fight of my career and to date, that I can't be travelling down and coming up because that could take a percentage off, and at this world level boxing, all it takes is 1% to be out and it can change your night's work, and he understands that. And it's just what my coach has said as well to me. So I'm gutted, but I'll be supporting back home. And I'm in no doubt that he'll go and put a masterclass in.
And I'm sure 7 days later he'll be with you in London. Now, Yeah, I must get your take on the fight that's happening, not this weekend, but the weekend after that. Fury Wilder, talk to me.
Oh, it's a mad one, isn't it? Like, because it's a hard one because you think about it on two different spectrums. You think about how like much Fury's put his body through abuse and like how far he went away from the game, and his last performance hasn't been that great. So like you would think that I think about it and I think, oh, Wilder's gonna be too much for him. But then on the other hand, I'm like, no way can you bet against Fury at anything. These are the kind of fights where Fury just makes everyone eat their words. So like it's such a hard one to actually pick. But like I could see why people would say, oh, Wilder's going to knock him out, and then I could see why people saying, oh, Fury's going to flit around and mess him up and outbox him for rounds. So I just don't know which one to go. It's one of them ones, isn't it? It's one of them mad fights that you just don't know, and you can never bet against Fury because he's always proved everyone wrong.
He certainly has. It's one of those fights, like I say. But of course, we certainly want Fury to win.
I want Fury.
Yeah.
100%. I want Fury to win. Yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah, for sure. And finally, Char, just before I let you go, any closing words at all for the listeners or anyone that may be listening?
I just want to say thank you for having me on. You always support me and always give me exposure. Thanks for everyone listening in. Mark my words, on December the 22nd, I will be crowned WBC World Champion and the new. Charlie, you already know this, my friend. I wish you the absolute best for the 22nd. Hopefully next time you're on the podcast, you will be accompanied by a beautiful green and gold belt. I will be. Don't you worry about that.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part. Ayaz, take it away. What you got?
Virginder Singh has signed with Top Rank.
Yeah, a bit of a weird one, really. I mean, obviously, we know that, this guy was like a Bollywood actor. He was a policeman, and he did fantastically well, actually, in the amateurs. People forget that. And then he turned pro, and he went with Frank Warren, and, they put on 1 or 2 shows in India. And I'm not quite sure what happened. The relationship just broke down. There's not really been many words said on it. And he kind of disappeared into oblivion. I mean, he was supposed to take on Lee Markham, if I'm not mistaken. And then that fight fell through. That was a great fight that I was looking forward to. And, he disappeared. And then he's now signed with Top Rank. And they've got plans to make boxing big in Delhi. So it's fantastic for the Indian fans. And all the best to Vijender Singh. I just want to see him in big fights. So, I'm all for it.
Anthony Yard will be on the undercard of Tyson Fury fight.
Yes, December the 1st. No opponent announced just yet. I'm guessing it's going to be another American opponent. I know this will be the second time that Yard has gone out to the States and had a fight. The last one was on a huge undercard. I think it was Canelo Liam Smith in a massive stadium. And now this one's on quite possibly the biggest undercard of the year. So a fantastic opportunity for him. I'm hoping that the opponent, even though there's not much time to find one, I'm hoping it's a decent enough opponent. But then again, he did fight about a month ago now. So, hopefully it's the last subpar opponent for Yard. And 2019, we'll see him stepped up.
Nathan Gorman will fight Alex Leopai on the Carl Frampton undercard.
Yeah, big step up there for Nathan Gorman. Obviously, Leopai, he's not like a well beater, but certainly from Nathan Gorman's level, it's a humongous step up. Leopai has been in there with the likes of Vladimir Klitschko, obviously lost that by knockout in the 5th round. He had a bad spell from 2014 to 2015 where he lost to Malik Scott at home. I remember Malik Scott went on the road for that one. Then he lost to Manuel Char. But since then, he's been undefeated, and that was back in 2015 May. So since then, he's been undefeated. He's had the 3 fights. Admittedly, one of them was a draw, but he had a rematch with a guy and knocked him out in a round, so he's doing okay. He's been around the block. He's much more experienced in terms of pro boxing than Nathan Gorman, but it's a fight that I like. And Leopai can bang, and to be honest, he's quite a tough guy. So if he was able to stop him early, Nathan Gorman, then that would be a huge statement. So I'm all for that fight. I think it's a brilliant step up, and can't wait for that one.
Brian Jennings will fight Oscar Rivas on January the 18th.
Yeah, Oscar Rivas, an undefeated fighter, I think, that fights out of Canada, but he's Colombian, and it's all a bit bizarre. But yeah, he didn't look too great in either his last fight or the fight before. I think it was on Box Nation, if I remember correctly. And yeah, I mean, he's been treading water for a while. He was a good amateur, Rivas, and now he takes on Bryant Jennings, which I think is quite a solid fight, quite a good fight. And if he is as good as what some people say, then he should beat Jennings. I think Jennings, to some degree, without being disrespectful, has ended up being a little bit of a gatekeeper. So yeah, I mean, if he can get past Jennings, then fair enough. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But on recent form, I'd have to say Jennings would probably go into that as the favourite, and he's a friend of the show, so all the best to him.
And Martin Murray will fight Hassan Ndam on the Carl-Frampton undercard.
Yeah, like we say, I mean, we mentioned just there about Nathan Gorman taking on Alex Leapai. This is another brilliant fight for that undercard. It's turning out to be a fantastic bill. Ever since Sky have confirmed that White and Chisora is going to be on pay-per-view on the same night as Warrington and Frampton, it seems like Frank Warren's gone, do you know what, we've got to really make sure that we've got a wicked card from top to bottom. So I'm liking that, and this is another fantastic fight, like you say. Hassan Ndam, a friend of the show, former world champion himself, a very tough guy. I think the one downfall about Ndam is I don't think that he's, even though he's tough, I don't think he takes a shot fantastically. So him against someone like a Lemieux, we saw that, or someone like a Triple G, I don't really give him much of a shot. But when he takes on someone like Martin Murray, who's not a big puncher, I give him a huge shot. And I actually think that he could end up probably beating Martin Murray. But yeah, a brilliant fight. Very much a 50-50 fight. Let's not get that wrong. But yeah, I think Murray, even though he's been so unlucky in his big fights, if he's got one big fight left in him, then he should win this one. But if he doesn't, then unfortunately I think it's the end of the road for Murray. But yeah, and Ndam is a brilliant fighter, man. Let's not take that fight for granted. Anyone that's big fans of Murray, do not overlook Ndam. He's a quality operator, a true one.
Liam Williams will face Mark Heffron on the Carl-Frampton undercard.
Yeah, another fight for the undercard. I mean, Liam Williams was supposed to be taking on JJ Metcalf. That all seemed a little bit messy. Metcalf I think he injured himself a little bit, and then the fight was going to get called off, and then he's actually decided that actually he's okay and he can fight. And Liam Williams basically said, no, can't be bothered with all that. You've missed your opportunity now. And he now takes on Mark Heffron, an undefeated prospect who's being highly touted. So that fight for me is probably even bigger and probably even riskier. JJ Metcalf would be kicking himself a little bit, but yeah, that's a brilliant fight, and perhaps he takes on the winner. But yeah, it's a chance here to see how good Heffron is, and a chance to see how good Williams is above this kind of level, because everyone believes that Williams is a decent fighter. I say everyone, I mean I do, and he should beat Heffron. But then again, if Heffron is as special as what some people believe, then he should beat Liam Williams. So it's a brilliant fight. I wouldn't say it's a 50-50, it's probably a 60-40 in favour of Williams in my opinion, but still a cracker for that beautiful undercard.
Daniel Dubois will headline a show on December the 15th on the BT Sport live at Brentwood.
Yeah, the Brentwood Centre. That's the place that Anthony Yard headlined last time out when he fought. Also on the undercard, because there's been no opponent confirmed for the main event for Daniel Dubois, but on the undercard, Bradley Skeet fights. Also, Sonny Edwards is in a good fight. So yeah, really, really looking forward to that one there. On the 15th of December at the Brentwood Centre. Is that it for the news, Ayaz?
Yep, and that's it for the news.
Thank you very much, Ayaz. Right, moving over now to the preview part of the show. We're going to start at the Casino de Monte Carlo Salé Médecine in Monaco. Few fights to mention on this bill. We have Daniel Ustinov 4-0. He's in an 8-rounder against Marcos Mujica. Mujica's record 16-2 with 2 draws. Of his 16 wins, 12 are by knockout. He's a fighter from Nicaragua. So yeah, looks like a little bit of a banger there. That one should be quite interesting. Also on the bill, we've got Michael Hunter, my dear friend, 15-1. We'll be speaking to him in a few moments' time. Obviously coming off of that brilliant knockout against Martin Bakole. It was just over, I think it was just 5 weeks ago, and now he steps in at late notice to take on Alexander Ustinov. I think he's had about 10 days notice for this fight, and I'm not talking about 10 days from today, I'm talking about 10 days when fight night comes, so he hasn't really had long. I think he arrived in Monaco on Monday or I think it might have been Tuesday. I think it was late on Monday. I will ask him. And obviously Ustinov 34-2. He was training to take on the 6'6" undefeated Olympic silver medalist from China, Zhilei Zhang. But Zhilei Zhang pulled out of the fight. I'm not quite sure why. And Michael Hunter's been drafted in here. So obviously Ustinov 34-2. Like I say, those two losses. One came to Char last time out, which was actually 1 day away come fight night from a year ago when he got beat by Char over 12 rounds for the vacant WBA regular world heavyweight title, when he was down in the 8th round of that fight. But he's coming off a year layoff, which isn't great, and Michael Hunter's coming off a fight 5 weeks ago, which isn't great. So both men are in similar boats in terms of their preparation, I'm guessing. But Ustinov's been training for a completely different kettle of fish, a guy that's 6'6", and obviously Michael isn't that. Michael's a small heavyweight, and the other guy is quite a big one. But yeah, Ustinov's going to be the much bigger guy here. He's obviously had a proper training camp for this fight. He is 41 years of age. Michael, if he is, and I'm going to say this honestly, if he is fit and he can box and move, he can easily outbox Ustinov. He can dance rings around him and not even lose a round. But it simply comes down to, will he be fit enough? Because I saw him gassing against Bakole after about 3 or 4 rounds. He was really tired. And this one's a 12-rounder, not a 10-rounder like the other month. No. This one's a 12-rounder. So, absolutely, I'm praying to God that Michael can pull this win off, because I love Michael to bits, and he's one of my closest friends in boxing. So I really hope he can get the win here and proceed to 16-1. I think there was supposed to be a belt on the line for this one, but maybe not. So the finalisation is there's no belt on the line. But all the very best to Michael Hunter. I would love to see him win that fight. We're actually going to go to the predictions on that, Ayaz. Michael Hunter against Alexander Ustinov. I'm going with a Michael Hunter knockout. The listeners are going with Michael Hunter on points. How do you see it?
I'll go with Michael Hunter on points.
I thought you were going to go Ustinov knockout.
Nope, not on this one.
Okay. Michael Hunter points. Moving up the card once again. Let's talk about Frank Buglioni, 22-3 with 1 draw. He fights for the IBF Intercontinental Light Heavyweight title against Fan Long Meng, 13-0, undefeated, an undefeated southpaw from China. This one's a 12-round contest. We don't know too much about Meng. I think he was a good amateur. Buglioni's got a fantastic record against southpaws. We had him on the show a few weeks back, Buglioni. Obviously, one of the nicest men in boxing once again. And I really hope he can win this fight, but it's another tough ask. I mean, he's the favourite, so maybe it's not too much of a tough ask. How do you see that one playing out, by the way, Ayaz? Buglioni and Fan Long Meng.
I'm going to go with Frank Buglioni on points.
Yeah, that's how the listeners have seen it as well. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I know loads about Meng, but I think he had a decent amateur career, if I'm not mistaken. And obviously he's undefeated as a pro, but he hasn't really fought anyone on Buglioni's level. So, do you know what? I hope that I hope I'm wrong, but I think that Meng might pull off an upset here, and I'm going to say Meng on points. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. Also, Denis Lebedev, 31-2. He fights Mike Wilson, 19-0, undefeated American. That's a 12-round contest there. How do we see that one going, Ayaz? Lebedev, obviously a man that we wanted to see involved in the Cruiserweight World Boxing Super Series tournament. If not the first time, the second time. He's not been in neither. And here he is in Monte Carlo, taking on an undefeated American here. 12-round contest.
I'm going to go with Lebedev on points.
Okay, Lebedev points. I'm going to go with Lebedev by knockout, so have the listeners, so that'll be interesting. And the main event, Kal Yafai, 24-0. I hope he wins this, so does Charlie Edwards, even though it's one of his biggest rivals. He defends his WBA World Super Flyweight title against Israel Gonzalez, 23-2, a 12-round contest. I'm going to go Yafai on points. The listeners have gone Yafai on points. How do you see it, Ayaz?
I'm going to go with Yafai by knockout.
Okay. I was going to go with that. I'm not going to lie. I was in two minds, but yeah, this guy's a pretty tough guy to a certain level, but obviously I'm expecting Yafai to be way too good for him on the night. That one's Saturday night on Sky Sports. I think it might be at a strange time, so check that one out. Also, we have happening at York Hall, Bethnal Green, a couple of fights to mention over here. We've got Harlem Eubank, the estranged son of Chris Eubank. His record 5-0. He's in a 6-rounder against Peter Alexandrov, who's 3-4. Sam Gilly, a prospect that was also on a Haymaker undercard one time on one of Joe Joyce's undercards. His record 6-0. He's in a 6-rounder against Ryan Toms, who's 16-15 with 3 draws. That should be quite good. Also on that bill, Tony Banj, a man that was involved with Prince Nassim Hamed. I'm not quite sure what's going on between those two now. He's in a 4-rounder against Dale Arrowsmith, who's 2-20 with 1 draw. Tony Banj, like I say, 5-0. And moving out now to the final bill to mention, this one's happening at the Mark G. Attess Arena in the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City, New Jersey, USA. It's going to be shown on HBO. It's also going to be shown on Box Nation. They deliver once again here. We're going to start with the undercard. We've got, well, there's not too much really to mention. It's not a great undercard. Sergei Kuzmin, 13-0, a man that stopped David Price. I mean, it wasn't because he knocked David Price out on the Joshua Povetkin undercard. It was because Price pulled out because he went into the fight with an injury, which was quite stupid. But anyway, Sergei Kuzmin, 13-0. He puts his WBA Intercontinental Heavyweight title on the line against Laron Mitchell, who's 16-1. And the main event here, we're going to go to the predictions on this once again. Dimitri Bivol, 14-0. He takes on Jean Pascal, 33-5 with 1 draw. This one's a 12-round contest for Bivol's WBA World Light Heavyweight title. It's quite funny because Bivol won that belt on an Eddie Hearn show in Monte Carlo. And now, on the same night that Eddie Hearn's putting on another show in Monte Carlo, he's defending that same belt and he's got nothing to do with Eddie Hearn anymore. Not quite sure what happened with their relationship, but he's gone and he's obviously now with Main Events. So, yeah, this one's on HBO. But yeah, he takes on Jean Pascal Ayaz, former world champion, very good fighter, a man that briefly retired, then came back, and he's looked pretty decent since he's come back. I think he's had 2 fights, both wins, and yeah, he's a tricky customer. He is a tricky customer, but obviously, you know, Kovalev kind of showed us that if you can punch quite hard, then you can pretty much walk through Pascal, and that's what Kovalev did. And you know, Bivol's a real thunderous puncher as well.
Oh, I think Bivol's a very good fighter. Obviously, we've seen him fight on the Eddie Hearn show. I think he's going to be a star, and I think he's a star already. But yeah, I'm going to go with Bivol knockout.
Bivol by knockout. All right. I'm going to go against the grain. The listeners, by the way, have gone with Bivol by knockout, so you're not on your own, Ayaz. But I'm going to go Bivol on points because I think that Jean Pascal can hustle Bivol a little bit. I'm not saying he's gonna win many rounds. I just think he's quite crafty, and I think that he's gonna give Bivol something or show Bivol something that he hasn't yet seen in the pro ranks. And with his experience, I think Pascal's gonna fiddle his way to a points loss. That's what I'm gonna say. I don't think he's going to stop Pascal, but listen, if he does, then fair enough. I saw Kovalev write an Instagram message to Bivol in Russian earlier this week. He said, punish him because he's a liar. He didn't pay up that bet that we had. Apparently they had a 50k bet and the loser would donate the money to charity, and apparently Pascal, after the fight, just did a runner and didn't pay the 50k, but he's got his own side of the story, so what I'm saying may not be gospel. He let me know that on Twitter. He said to me, he didn't even shake my hand on it. So apparently that means that the bet is completely not on. There's a few different ways of looking at that. Let's just quickly go over the predictions from last week, which I've kind of missed out where we've been going through everything so quickly. Last week, we all went with Leharaga by knockout. We all gained the point there. We all went with Shields by knockout. That didn't happen. We all went with Arias on points, and that didn't happen. We all went with Miller by knockout. That happened, so we all gain a point there, so that's 2 points gained. And then we were divided on one other fight, and that was Rios against Alvarez. You and the listeners' eyes both went with Rios on points. That didn't happen, and I bravely went with Rios by knockout. So once again, I've gained more points. I think it's about 3 or 4 weeks in a row now, so you can imagine how I'm feeling. Absolutely brilliant. But yeah, that is the end of the preview part of the show. We brought you guest number 1. We brought you the review and the preview. We brought you the news. Ayaz, you did fantastic on the news. Just before we wrap up part 2, the last thing to do is to welcome our second and final guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 2012 Olympian, the former Cruiserweight World Title Challenger and the new IBO Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion, Mr. Michael Hunter. Mike, welcome back on the show.
How you doing?
Very
I'm
good.
Welcome to be. I'm glad to be back.
It's brilliant to have you back, Mike. So we last spoke just before that Bakole fight. Now, you were a huge underdog. No one gave you a chance. You said you'd knock him out. No one believed you. But it didn't make any difference to the outcome of the fight. Please, if you can, walk us through that fight round by round.
Well, the first round, I think I felt like I started too fast. I just watched the fight for the first time. I set a pace that I knew he couldn't keep up with. And, I even, had a little trouble keeping up with it at the time. But I just felt like, the first couple of rounds that he was going to go. I was expecting him to fall before that. But, I have a major will, so I know that's what got me over. And, he was a big, strong guy. And, just going through the rounds, I was taking it, round by round. And hitting him with some big shots, and the way he was taking them was very surprising. And then, he threw some big shots back at me. I was never really worried about being hurt or anything like that, as you could tell how I fought. Not that I wouldn't want to say I gave him no respect, but I just felt like, I was the superior fighter. And, towards the end, I definitely proved it.
Now, you tired pretty clearly during that fight, but I still had you winning pretty much every round despite that. I think I probably gave Bakole maybe 2 rounds, despite yourself being tired and despite how strong Bakole is. Did you feel in control during that whole entire fight, or were there moments where you perhaps weren't as comfortable as others?
Yeah, like you said, there was maybe just very certain spots and maybe 2 rounds where I wouldn't say that I was out of control, but I would say that he was coming on strong and trying to give it. And I felt like it was his last hurrah. Once he couldn't get me out of there, and he tried to do is give it all he could, all his strength. I felt like that was his last hurrah. He was giving it the rest he could, and it was in the 7th, 8th round. He tried to hit me with he did hit me with some decent shots. But, I took it and I looked at him in his eyes, and I think that's when he called it quits. I was trying to keep a good pace on him, going to the body a lot. And, I know when he gave up is when he, if you watch the fight in the beginning, I tried to reach out and touch his hand. And which he didn't reach out and touch my hand, which was, that's a good thing. But when in the 4th or 5th, 6th round, one of them rounds, he tapped me on my shoulder. And basically, he basically did the same thing I was trying to do with him, is give him respect. He tapped me on my shoulder, and I knew right from there that he was done. He quit. He called it quits. He gave me my respect, and I earned it right then and there. So I knew it was only a matter of time. If I just keep the pressure and keep hitting him with these big shots, that I would get him. I actually knew I was going to knock him out, even though it was towards the end of the 10th round. I still was very confident. I thought I was going to get him out in the 9th. But he did some tactics to stay in there a little longer. But once I knew that I could land some decent shots and I was in a good position to let my hands go, I knew I would do that, and it would be, a good combination, and we were going to be taking it from there.
Yeah, and like I say, a fantastic stoppage. I think you gave the referee one just for good measure on the end of it. The final.
Yeah, that was for him not stopping it.
That was for him not stopping it. Now, the final question on that fight. I mean, the following day, the day after the fight, obviously you were resting up in your hotel, and I called you to let you know the scorecards at the time of the stoppage. Now, 2 judges had it a draw going into the final round, the 10th round, and the other judge had you just 1 round up. And I want to kind of ask you, what was your reaction to me telling you that, Mike? Because at the time, you were pretty speechless. I don't think you reacted because you couldn't say anything when I told you that. You couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I still feel the same way, and even going in the fight, I knew I was, anytime I go to somebody's hometown or I'm going to try to take somebody else's title from them, I always put myself down 1 or 2, so I kind of knew I was going to be down, but I felt like I did enough to to win the fight, even with the 2 rounds. Like you said, you gave him 2 rounds. That's 4 rounds, and that still doesn't beat, 10, So I wasn't totally surprised by it, but I was a little disappointed in how they would try to, do that to me when I felt like I outpunched him 4 punches to 1, every time. And I kind of kept that count in my head. I would punch him 3 to 4 combinations. Anytime that he would hit me once, I would hit him 2 or 3, 4 times, So I kind of kept that count in my head. Boxers, we kind of tend to do that, even the rounds and stuff like that. But so when you told me about it, I was just, it was jaw-dropping, but, I had to swallow it because I kind of knew that something like that could definitely happen, and that's why I pushed for the knockout.
It all amounted to nothing in the end. Screw it. You won the fight in fantastic fashion. The judges were not needed whatsoever. Now, you went back to the States with a new belt. More importantly, you went back to the States with a new T-shirt. Wink, wink. But when you got back in the States, Mike, what did you do in terms of training and or resting in the period before you got the call for this fight that we're going to talk about in a moment?
Well, this boxing thing is not seasonal. It's not like other sports. We don't really play it, so there's no seasons involved. So when I got back home, I got right back to training. But when we say training, we're talking about softer stuff, recovery stuff. I did take some big punches. I got cut on both my eyes a little bit. So I was just doing a lot of healing, putting ointments and, icing and, what I'm saying, making sure, I could have, done nothing, but, I want to keep my mind fresh, keep my body as fresh as I can. But I healed up, well. I didn't have no real bad hand injuries or, leg or knee or elbows or anything like that. And if I had anything, they probably, doing the ice baths and, the softer stuff, stretching, yoga, things like that, of those sorts for the first week. And I do a little fasting to help me recover, get my body doesn't have to think about digesting food. It can think about fully recovering and doing what it's supposed to do as far as the healing process. So, I was fasting for about 2 weeks. And, I got a word of this, maybe like, a week after. But I just started doing a lot more physical stuff. Even when I'm fast, I actually, I still kind of do physical stuff. It's just not, hard and taxing on your body and stuff like that. So, training and stuff like that, that's like an everyday thing for me. So I'm definitely not out of shape. It was only a month ago, and I trained really hard for the Bakole fight. So, I'm ready.
And like I say, out of nowhere, you've jumped into a fight here on Saturday against Alexander Ustinov. Now, he was set to take on Zhilei Zhang, a Olympic silver medalist, but obviously Zhang pulled out the fight. He's 6'6". He was an undefeated pro. So obviously Ustinov was preparing for him. But like I say, you've stepped in his place. How much notice in total, Mike, from the first kind of moment where you decided, yes, I'm going to take this fight, up until the actual fight night, have you had?
Could you repeat that again? I'm sorry.
That's fine, Mike. I'm saying, like, since you first decided, yes, I'm going to definitely take this fight against Ustinov, how long ago was that compared to the actual fight night come Saturday? Is it about 10 days, something like that?
Yeah, it was about 10 days. Even though I make my own decisions, I always talk to my team, and everybody was thought I should, go for it, and it was a go, and, they know that I've been training and, still keeping my shape and stuff like that. So, we were ready. Everybody agreed, and I looked up Ustinov and, seen that he has a lot of experience. He's a big guy. I feel like they're trying to make me the David of all these Goliaths now. So, once I seen his energy and, I measured him out and, we made our decision as a team. I told him I wanted to go with it.
And the fight, like I say, happens on Saturday in Monte Carlo. What should fans expect to see from you come Saturday, Mike? Is it more of the same, what we saw against Bakole, or is it a completely different version of you?
I'm pretty sure you're going to see every fighter is different. So every fight is going to be different. I don't really try to approach the same way because everybody has a little different style, different height, different reach and way they go about things. Yeah, I think it's going to definitely be a different type of fight. I would predict a knockout, and I don't know what round, but people see me as a nice guy with a nice smile, but they're gonna see that I have a mean streak in me, and so I'm not sure exactly what the game plan is, how I'm gonna approach it, but I know I'm gonna probably do a lot more boxing. I watched the Bakole fight, I guess for the first time. Yesterday. I never really watched the whole fight. Obviously I was in it, but when I watched the fight, I noticed that I never really took a step back unless, he came very forward. I was basically foot to foot with him basically the most of the fight, especially in the earlier rounds when I could have made the fight a lot easier, probably got the job done a lot easier and still got the stoppage. So I'm going to try to implement that a little more, combinations, lateral movement, and things like that.
And Mike, what do you know about Ustinov? Because obviously, you haven't had that much time. You haven't really had ideal preparation for this whatsoever. Have you had much time to kind of check him out? And like I say, how difficult is it to come up with a game plan with just a few days, really, to prepare for it? I'm very adaptable, man. Like Bruce Lee, they say I'm like water, so I just try to adapt to, I see his attributes, what he's good at, what he's not good at, and we're going to stay away from the things that he's good at and attack the things that he's not good at, so, however the fight turns out, you'll see me implementing those type of things. But I know, yes, I have not got an ideal training camp, but, this is boxing and nothing really goes as ideal. The moment you get in the ring and the bell rings and you throw that first punch, something right then and there is probably going to go not as planned. And I want to get your reaction to Tony Bellew and Alexander Usyk the other week. Did you happen to watch it at all?
I did. No, I did not watch the fight, but I did see the little knockout clip. I don't know if we talked about it before, but I kind of predicted that Usyk would win by unanimous decision. I did not think he was going to get the knockout, I thought. But I did say that Tony Bellew was, he was talking about retirement and stuff like that, which is, to me, is not a good sign. It's never a good sign for winning a fight of that stature. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, that's more of a payday thing and, your last hurrah and stuff like that, which, they made the fight, so any man could have won, but, when you're talking about odds and, energy and stuff like that, Usyk's still very hungry and, he's fired up and stuff like that. And, to hear a fighter talk like Bellew was, even though he had a difference, he talked a little different during the fight, coming, previous, like in the press conference and stuff. He was very, he's a game guy. So I didn't think he would just, if he was going to go out, he's going to go out in the shield. But, yeah, it was kind of expected. I wasn't surprised.
Yeah, I think many people agree. And coming down to the final proper question now for you, Mike, two men that you know very well clash next weekend. Wilder versus Fury. Talk to me, baby.
Man, I love that fight. It's going to be hard for Tyson. Tyson has a lot of little hurdles that he's going to have to cross over as far as his mental state. He's saying he's the best. He's in the best place mentally that he's ever been, and physically. But also Tyson's a big talker, and he's a very confident person. But confidence doesn't justify clarity. When you see something, you see something. When you're confident, you've seen all you can see, and then you're going off of what you hope. So I'm not really sure that Tyson. I mean, he's the better boxer, better skilled fighter. He's had enough time to prepare for the fight. You know, it's just like when you're not in those type of that great shape. You know, it's harder to take punches. There's a lot of tangibles that come with fights like that. And but I could see Tyson winning a decision, and I also can see him getting knocked out. So I'm not sure exactly what to put my money on, but I know it's going to be a great fight, and I probably wouldn't put my money on it. You know, Tyson has done some major things in his career. He's a lot of success. You know, they still consider him the lineal champ. But, you know, Deontay is, you know, Olympic stablemate of mine. You know, he's a very strong person. He's always been strong, lanky, and he's hard to fight when somebody's so lanky and awkward and wiry like that. And, you know, he's game, too. You know, he has a lot of heart, you know, so it's not going to just – if Tyson knocks him down one time, I don't think it's going to be just the you know, he's going to get up. You know, he has a lot of heart and a lot of will. So it's going to be a battle, and I'm excited to see it. Hopefully I'll be there.
We all are excited to see it. And finally, Mike, just before I let you go, any closing words that you want to say to anybody at all, the listeners that are listening, what's your message?
I just want to say tune in to The Zone on Saturday. Watch me do my thing and perform to the best of my abilities and you know, work my magic. And please continue to follow me. Instagram, Michael Bounty Hunter. You know, follow my career, and I appreciate everybody and all the fans and all the haters.
And like I say, The Zone in the States and Sky Sports in the UK. Now listen, Mike, you know this already. I wish you the absolute best, the very best for Saturday night. Thank you for your time, and we'll certainly catch up sometime after this win.
Thank you. Yes, please. I hope we, you know, right after we could get one in, and you know, I can give you a breakdown of how I felt right after the fight, and maybe we can do one a little, like, you know, a week or two later or something like that, where I can give you another perspective of it from the outside looking in, and you know, it'll all be fun and games.
Okay, and this wraps up episode 162 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Ayaz Sumra has been Ayaz Sumra. I'd like to thank our two guests for taking part in this week's show, the former flyweight world title challenger and soon-to-be flyweight champion of the world, Mr. Charlie Edwards, and the top heavyweight contender himself, Mr. Michael the Bounty Hunter. Both guys are two of my closest friends in boxing, so it's always great catching up with those. The Prediction League currently stands at you, the listeners, and Ayaz, both tied on 70 points, but due to my recent luck from nowhere, I'm in the lead on 73 points. Go me, go me. I'm absolutely loving it. I'd like to apologise for the poor sound quality during the first 2 minutes of the Charlie Edwards interview. We had a slight recording issue there, so I apologise for that. But that's about everything. Thank you all for listening to this week's show. Enjoy your weekends, people, and we shall see you all again next week.